everyone. Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
So it's good to see you here this morning for our Heritage Sunday, if my voice will cooperate. So you should see there's a few handouts we've made available. One is, where do we Presbyterians come from? And it's very close to, I think, a document we did last year or so as well. So that's just a nice little reminder of some of the key points of Presbyterian history. I actually grew up in the Methodist church and basically became Presbyterian because that's where Mona went. But it turns out, Presbyterian church is a really good place. So, but it's primarily, we look back to a heritage starting with the French reformer John Calvin, sort of one of the 16th century troublemakers, along with Martin Luther, who sort of upended the 1,000 years of Catholic church domination of Europe. And then for us, I think it's interesting to see in the settlement of the colonies and the early United States, we have the first Presbyterian synod in North America by 1717. So really coming over in the colonial period and getting organized decades before there was a United States of America. And then the PCUSA dates from 1788, so shortly after the formation of the United States. And so there's more details there that the history goes on. The PCUSA, as we know it today, was formed actually, does anyone remember or know or looked at the back? 1983. So a relatively recent phenomenon, bringing together the largest group of Presbyterians in the Presbyterian Church USA. And there's a figure here. As of 2021, PCUSA had just over 1 million members and 8,800 congregations. So there you have it. And also, I'm not going to dwell on it, but another handout that we're providing again this year, Covenant Heritage Notes from the Piping Hot Cookbook from 2003. When I first read that, I thought, I remember the cookbook, but well, it turns out that part of that project was to gather anecdotes and information about the history of the church. And so take a look at that. There's some fun facts and sort of little known details about our history. And so by all means, check that out. And so I'm going to pull the door shut. Your fingers, David.
Yeah, he's working that situation.
Sure. Okay, sure.
Up at the side.
2022. In 1970, we were 4 million.
1970, we were 4 million. More recently, we are down to 1 million. So, well. But those of us who are here, by golly, we're all in, right? So another thing that I wanted to do, just I think you all are aware that I've been working over the last year or so, sort of slowly. I'm not, I'm just sort of getting at it bit by bit. But I've been looking at the Covenant Presbyterian Church's heritage materials, which were gathered, and that was an effort, I think, led in particular by the Tanhills and the Sharps, something like 20 to 25 years ago. They gathered a lot of material, a lot of which then has has just been in filing cabinets and so on and not really worked with or looked at very much. And so I've been taking it upon myself to do some of that. And so I thought today we could do a little discussion, a little history of covenant in 10 objects. So I brought along some things that I found that I thought might be fun to have a look at. And there are some things where I'm not totally sure the circumstance, and that's where you come in potentially. If you see anything where you have a particular memory of it or know something, speak up, and I'd love to learn and take down notes of what these things are. Okay, so object number 1, I've got the covenant charter.
Wow.
Here we are, and in fact, there are 2 of these posted in the church. This one's in the Heritage Room. There is also one in the narthex. And I am not 100% sure if one's the original verse, which one is the copy, or if they were both signed at the same time. But here you have, we the undersigned persons desire to be constituted and organized as a church, to be known as Covenant Presbyterian Church, and so on. And so here we have these signatures, January 31st, 1954. So there is that. And so I'd invite you to come up and take a closer look as you wish.
David,
Yeah.
where's this heritage room?
Oh, you know where Katie Kinnison's office was?
Is it next to Aaron?
Lori's old office?
Okay, yes, that's it.
That's the room. Yes. Right.
No longer a storeroom.
Right, exactly. And I think that maybe volunteers answering the phones are in there, things like that too. But you will notice that I've been encroaching with more and more of this kind of stuff. So item number 2, we've got some sketches. The sort of the early designs that were put forward for the church. Here is an artist rendering where you see the so Dave, I don't know if you have any particular memories of this this early rendition showing the steeple, which did not come, of course, we know, until Tracy Keenan's time. And there are these.
Russ Harold bequest provided the steeple.
Okay, Russ Harold bequest for the steeple. And so there we have this early image. And note the shape of the sanctuary.
That was not the original master plan.
Right.
Quite a different sanctuary.
Yeah, different sanctuary than the original master plan. And so now, take a look at the other one.
Oh.
A little bit of a, Egyptian pyramid kind of vibe, or, so Dave, do you remember the status of this drawing? And this did not end up being the final embodiment of the structure.
The architect was the same guy that designed the Kahiki restaurant.
The Kahiki restaurant architect.
The trustees were infatuated with the idea of the tent form rather than the vertical.
Yes.
Gothic form. We originally, Adam Richardson Armstrong originally envisioned.
Right. Very good. Yeah.
For me, like you said, not everybody can hear.
Yeah. So yeah.
Your voice is louder.
Yeah. Anyhow, the trustees and architecture committee were leaning more towards something of that configuration than they realized they had to leave the gable ends open.
Right, yeah. So they were looking at something like this, and then realized that they needed to stay more with the Gothic kind of structure that we've ended up with.
Gothic was original, high vertical walls, masonry.
Yep. Yeah. Okay. Number 3. This is, well, it's laminated now, but this is an early pamphlet from, I believe, 1953, showing the Covenant Presbyterian Church. And you'll see, I mean, this one we can pass around and you can just look close up. But you can see how here is the Covenant Presbyterian Church, this long structure that looks, well, like that part over there, and that's all. And so, 1953, what you can do to help: attend church faithfully, enroll your children in the church school, volunteer for service in the church school, the choir, and other organizations, etc. And there's a little diagram showing parking, Sciotangi, Ridgecliff, Reading, and then sort of outlined the location for a future building. And then the reverse of this pamphlet has sort of shows the layout of the inside. So anyway, so I'll start, David, if you want to have a look at that. And I don't know if you have any fond reflections of those early days on this particular drawing.
That first phase, which included the chapel and the offices and Sunday school rooms, cost us $95,000.
$95,000 for the 1955 for that first phase. That's, you know, choir, chapel, that wing.
But that only got us the bare building. The fire, our volunteer labor did all the finish.
Yeah, so 95,000 for the facility, but then volunteer labor to really get a lot of the work done. So very good. All right. Item number 4. We've got, well, not necessarily all that exciting. It's just a Bible. But I had never seen this before. It's a Bible. It's a Revised Standard Version. And it's embossed with the Covenant Presbyterian Church. And I don't know how many of these are. This is the only one I've seen. And the copyright date on the Bible, the printed Bible itself, is 1952. So, I mean, so it certainly comes from a very early point in the
Drop tape.
Oh,
But that's
not that crucial.
not. No.
Just helping me count from 1 to 10, which is not the easiest thing.
So did they have the Bibles were used when they were down at Lane Avenue?
I don't know the answer to that. I would love to know if a whole lot of these were produced and or for new members, or
We had them in the pews.
oh, in the pews. Okay. So these would have been the pew Bibles in the earliest stage of the church. So, all right, number 5.
They started in the theater.
So, this is something I'll pass around. It's a little fragile, so be gentle with it. It's one of these kind of little signature books, autograph book for guests. And let me see what I write down. So, this is Don Shaw's autograph book with many signatures of early members welcoming Don to being installed as the first pastor of Covenant, September 19, 1954. And so there's some nice calligraphy in there. And the very Pardon?
A woman? Or Dawn?
Don, okay, D-O-N, Don, yeah. Yeah. The very first guest signing here is Anna Jo Beeson. So anyway, so take a look, be gentle, but
Don Shaw was not an installed pastor. He was sent by National Missions.
okay.
And so our first installed pastor was Don Swinburne. But Shaw was a supply pastor.
So
Organizing pastor.
Don Shaw was organizing supply pastor, not a called pastor. So Swinburne would be the first called pastor. Okay. Next up. This is one where I actually do kind of have a question, if any of you know the answer. So obviously it's a gavel or a very decorative hammer. And there's a plaque, a metal plaque on here, Covenant Presbyterian Church, Men's Club, organized 1958. And so, when they met, they had a special gavel, it was hard to, get order when it's a bunch of covenant men, I guess, and so you really need a good tool. So the question I have, I was a deacon between 20 and 30 years ago. I'm remembering Tom Maish, for example, being moderator. And in those times, the Board of Deacons sort of ritually had a gavel and then would pass it on to the next deacon moderator. I'm a deacon now, and we don't have a gavel. But I'm wondering if this was the gavel or it's a different gavel. So that may be a mystery of the ages, but anyway, here we have that. Maybe I'll start this one here and just pass it around as you like. All right. Next up. It's another tool. So I don't do much like building or carpentry or whatever. I believe this is a trowel.
Yes,
Trowel.
trowel.
But I don't think this ever saw active combat because it's got an inscription on it. For no other foundation can anyone lay than that which is laid, which is Jesus Christ. 1 Corinthians chapter 3, verse 11, July 1st, 1963. So it would seem to be a 10-year, perhaps a 10-year, and yeah, Dave.
That was the cornerstone here for the sanctuary. That's the date right out there.
Of course. The 1963 out on, outside and at the end of the place there. Here it is from laying the cornerstone. And so there we go. Very good. So Dave, do you remember seeing this? Is that familiar to you?
My father used this on behalf of Presbyterian.
Ah,
I told you the story how I was laying the cornerstone.
right, yeah. So Dave's father was laying the cornerstone with that tool the same day you were laying the cornerstone at Broad Street.
The Christian Education Building.
Okay, yeah, so, all right, very good, so. Next up. Here is an updated photo. We saw the charter members, the signatures.
Oh, great. Oh, yeah.
Okay. This is a picture from 1974. So it is charter members of Covenant in 1974 with names. And so if you want to have a look at that, let me see. Dia Dare, Barbara Bolton, Jim Bolton, Drew Arnold, the Ruseys, the Beesons, Mary Jean Grieger, Doris Waller, Mary Jean Francis. you know, just greatest hits of wonderful charter members of the church.
54.
This is 74, so it's
a reunion.
it's a 20-year celebration of covenant. So 1974, with many signatures, or not signatures, but the names of the charter members there. And number 9, this is just, I mean, I think we all know about this, right? I just thought this is so cool. I mean, I think of how the covenant choir is so much more than just a choir, right? I mean, covenant choir is, I mean, it's a thing. It's a spiritual body of and a fun group of people doing the musical things that we do. And there was this fundraiser cookbook that was done. I think in the early 90s was my recollection.
2003 or
Oh, thank you. 2003 or 4. And so here is one. And do note the handout that we put out with Covenant Heritage Notes from the Piping Hot Cookbook. So this is the cookbook, and so it's more than a cookbook. There's some fun, interesting stuff included in there about the church history and so on. So, I mean, probably we don't need to pass this around. I think you're probably all familiar with it, but there we have that. So
It was to raise money for the organ.
To raise money for the organ, restoration, expansion. Yeah, so, all right, very good. And, okay, number 10, this is one that's really a mystery to me. And that I've asked around and nobody seems to know about it. But I found this thing when I was, you know, we're looking through the heritage stuff. And it's an embroidered banner of Covenant Presbyterian. And so we, of course, recognize there's church, the sanctuary, and then there are sort of interesting little images. For example, here's a small group. Here's a wheelchair. I look at these images, I look at the way the people look. I'm kind of thinking this feels like something maybe from the 1970s or 80s. But
even possibly it could be Judy Dale.
Yes.
That's what it looks like.
I think it is.
yeah, Judy Dale.
She did all the banners.
Right.
Yeah.
Right, that makes sense. Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
very,
Has anyone ever seen this before? Anyone in this room?
No.
Ever? Okay. Well, it's a pretty neat thing, right? Oh, yeah. So this is actually, I've just had it in the Heritage Room just on display there, and it's a really neat thing. And so
It's a sort of early all are welcome here.
yes.
exactly, definitely. Thank you. That's a good point. So, all right. So.
And Crystal's noting that it could be in the display case maybe, right? In front.
Oh,
or in the front hallway.
Yeah. Somewhere less dusty,
Yes,
perhaps would be good. So,
Yeah.
absolutely. Well, if you ever want to move it, I mean, I can leave it in the Heritage Room, and we,
Because
you know,
the
we
stuff in
can.
there now is mine, so when it's ready to come down, I can take it down and we can put that up.
That'd be great. I even went to Hobby Lobby and bought this dowel and these end pieces. You know, that's about $6. I mean, so.
You know, we can display all those 10 things in there.
Oh, yeah.
That would be interesting.
Oh, that would be, yeah. So, okay, well, yeah, let's talk. We'll think about that. Okay. All right, very good. Well, that concludes my brief history of covenant in 10 objects. So, you know, I hope it was interesting and a little fun, and it's a pleasure. So, thanks.